Hi everyone, and welcome back to Queen G's Recipes, and today we are going to continue on with our cookie series. This will be our third recipe in our cookie series. So today we will be making carrot cake whoopie pies. I know you're probably thinking, how are whoopie pies considered a cookie? But really they are, and they're sandwiched together with a filling. So today we'll be making the carrot cake whoopie pies with a cream cheese filling. So first off, I'm going to give you the ingredients of what we'll be needing for the whoopie pies, and then when we move on to the filling, I will show you what you will need. So here we have 2 cups of flour. Into the flour I have 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon. Here we also have 1/2 cup of butter at room temperature. Because it was on my stove while my stove was on, it melted a little bit, but that's perfectly fine. As long as it's very, very soft and at room temperature, that's what you need. I also have here 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, 1/2 cup of sugar, and 3/4 cups of brown sugar in there as well. And of course we will be needing the shredded carrots. I have 1.5 cups of shredded carrots. That is approximately 3 medium carrots. So I will be using a whoopie pie cookie pan, but most definitely you can use just a cookie baking sheet and that'll work just fine. Actually, I will be making some here, and I will be making some on a cookie sheet, so you can see and compare that really there is no difference between the two. You can use either or. You don't have to purposely go out and buy a whoopie pie cookie pan sheet. You can just use a regular cookie sheet. And of course, you will also be needing 2 large eggs. Now, I will be making my whoopie pies in my standing mixer, but most definitely you can use a bowl, a whisk, and a spatula, or you can even use a handheld electric whisk, and that'll be fine too. Just use what you have on hand, and that is totally fine. So now, we're going to add in our butter. Okay, in with our butter, we'll add in our sugars. And if you're using a standing mixer, you want to use your paddle attachment. Now we're going to allow this to mix for about a minute or 2, just until we have it nicely combined. Now with our mixer on, we'll just add in our eggs and mix again for another minute or 2. Then we'll add in our vanilla and mix for another 30 seconds to a minute. Now we're just going to give our dry ingredients a gentle little mix here, just to kind of incorporate everything together. Now what I'm going to do is, if you have a sifter at home, you can use a sifter. But I'm just going to use a sieve, and I'm going to pass it through a sieve just to make sure our flour is nice and fluffy and all of our dry ingredients, and then we'll mix everything together with the wet creamy ingredient. Okay, so I removed my paddle attachment in the meantime so we can just sift our flour. So that's what we're going to do. As I said, if you have a sifter, just sift all of your dry ingredients together. If not, you can just do it this way with a sieve, and that's perfectly fine. Now I'm going to put my paddle attachment back in. It already smells so good in here. And we're going to mix just until incorporated, not overmix. Do not overmix. Okay, so now that that's incorporated, we are going to add in our shredded carrots. Okay. Now at this moment, you can actually add in coconut, you can add in raisins, pecans. I mean, it's totally up to you. This is like a carrot cake version. So you can add whatever you desire, but this is how I'm gonna make it. A very simple, very basic carrot cake whoopie pie. And but I'm just giving you other options in case you want to add anything else, which is totally fine. Now you want to make sure that you also have your oven preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. And now we'll mix again just until all incorporated. Alright, so I removed my bowl from my standing mixer, took off all the excessive batter that was stuck on my paddle attachment, and now you're left with this amazing batter. Now, if you are making this and you are in a very hot and humid atmosphere, I do suggest that you refrigerate it before you make your cookies. Where I am, it's still pretty cold right now, so I find it's perfectly fine. So what you would do if you find your batter is a bit soft because of the heat and humidity, wrap it with some plastic wrap, put it in your fridge for about half an hour to an hour, and then you can go ahead and make your whoopie pies. So now I'm gonna get my tray and we're gonna prepare our whoopie pies. Okay, so now we're gonna prepare our whoopie pies. I'll be using my small ice cream scoop for this one, because I am using a whoopie pie tray. And it's as simple as that. Now remember, if you're not using a whoopie pie cookie tray, most definitely you can use a cookie baking sheet and that will work just fine. Just use a larger ice cream scoop, unless you want to make small ones, which is totally fine too. I'm making about 4-inch whoopie pies, but you can make 2-inch as well. That is totally your preference. Alright, so we're going to put this in our preheated oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about 18 minutes or so. I will let you know how long mine ran in the oven for and what they look like when they're done. Okay, so my whoopie pies were in the oven for exactly 13 minutes. I inserted a toothpick just to make sure it came out clean, so they are perfect timing at 13 minutes, but ovens do vary, so just keep an eye on yours. As soon as they start to get golden brown around the edges, you know they're ready, but you can do the old toothpick method as I did, and that will always give you the right results. So now we're going to allow them to cool off and we're going to work on our filling. Now, just another tip, before removing your whoopie pies from your pan, you want to allow them to sit in your pan for at least 5 minutes before removing them. So be it on a cookie sheet or a whoopie pie baking sheet, you still have to wait 5 minutes before removing them. Okay everyone, so now that our whoopie pies are cooling, we are going to move on to making our filling. So we're going to be making a nice cream cheese filling here, and let's go over the ingredients you'll be needing. So what I have here is 4 ounces of cream cheese. Make sure it's softened at room temperature, and once again I left it on my stove so it's very soft. And my butter as well, you're going to need 4 tablespoons, which is about 1/4 cup of butter. So in here we also are going to be using some salt, 3.5 to 4 cups of icing sugar, or can also be classified as powdered sugar. We're also going to be using 1 to 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Now, depending on the humidity and moisture in people's homes, it does depend on the consistency and outcome of the frosting. If you feel that you need more powdered sugar, then put more. If you feel you need less, then use less. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put our butter and cream cheese. Now this must be at room temperature. And now with my handheld mixer, I am just going to mix this until it is nice and creamy. Once that is creamy and smooth, we will add in our vanilla. I usually like to put 1 to 2 teaspoons in there. We're going to add a pinch of salt, small pinch of salt. And we're going to mix again. Now that that is nicely mixed together, we're going to add in our powdered sugar in 3 parts. Okay? And make sure you start on low speed. You can also do this with a bowl and a whisk, but you'll eventually have to switch to a spatula. So I'm going to mix this together, and then we'll add in the second and then the third portion until all of our powdered sugar is complete. Okay, so for my cream cheese filling, I ended up using only 3 cups of the icing sugar, so it all depends. Now, if you find that you add too much icing sugar and it's a little too thick, you can always add a teaspoon or 2 of milk until you get the consistency you want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my frosting and I'm going to place it into a piping bag. If you don't have a piping bag, you can always use a Ziploc bag and then cut off the tip. That is totally fine too, but I do always have these handy, so I definitely make use of them. Now, before filling my whoopie pies, I do want to share a few tips with you guys. Now, the cooking time for the cookie cakes themselves will depend on how big you make them, so that depends. Mine took 13 minutes, but if you make them smaller, it may be less time. The toothpick method is always a charm, so it always works. So make sure you do that if you're uncertain. And also, before filling your whoopie pies, you must allow them to cool completely before filling them, or else the filling will start to come out of your whoopie pies. I also wanted to mention that earlier on in the video, I did mention about refrigerating the batter if it was too soft. Now, the reason that I did mention that is because carrots have a lot of moisture, and sometimes it can make your batter a little bit soft. So if you have that problem, as I said, refrigerate half an hour to an hour and then go on making your cookies. So now I'm going to take my frosting, and we're just going to fill our piping bag. Okay, you can also do this in a cup. Put the piping bag inside and fill it. That is an easier way of filling your piping bag or Ziploc bag or whatever you're using. Okay. Now I'm going to leave the rest aside here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut off the tip once I have pushed it all down here. You can also use a decorating tip, but I find there's no need. So I just cut off a little bit on the bottom. Okay, so I'm gonna cut off probably about this much. Now it'll allow me to push all the frosting down. Okay. Okay, so now that my whoopie pies have cooled completely, my batter gave me 15 whoopie pies, which means it gave me 30 half cookie cakes here, 30 halves. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take my filling, okay? There's no right or wrong way of doing this. Okay, take my other half, place it on top, and there you have your carrot cake whoopie pie with your cream cheese filling. Okay, I'm gonna make another one to show you guys. Now you don't want to overfill your cookie cakes, and then your filling will start to come out. Okay, there we go. Take the other half, place it on top, and there you have it. Another one done. So I'm going to continue making my whoopie pies with the filling, and I'll let you know what it looks like and what they taste like as soon as they're done. Well guys, here we have our completed and filled whoopie pies. So easy to make, so delicious, so simple, and a quick and simple alternative to a carrot cake. Now, most definitely, I do suggest you guys try this recipe. It is amazing and very, very delicious. So, that's about it. Now it's time for us to try. They are so amazing. You just have to try them yourself. Now when you take a bite into them, you'll notice the filling doesn't even come out. It stays put. It's a perfect consistency. And that's about it. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it. Leave me a comment if you have any questions or comments. And don't forget to share the video, share it with your friends and family, and enjoy, guys. So, see you on my next video. Take care. Bye, everyone.